There's nothing quite as special as falling in love for the very first time.
That bond was magical. I really never seen my sister be that comfortable with anybody else besides him.
She would talk about him. You could tell that she loved him.
But no love or person is perfect.
We may love a person, but we see their imperfections, and most people can't help but try to fix them.
She would say, well, at least if I help him, he'll be a better person and stuff, because he's a good-hearted person, Mama.
She tried to save him by literally taking him up out of it.
What happens when that person pushes back?
No one likes to be told what to do, so sometimes there are feelings of anger and resentment, and those emotions can bubble over.
And when that happens, there can be disastrous consequences for everyone involved.
A lot of police still out here trying to figure out what happened. What we do know right now, 4 people were shot, 2 are dead. Their bodies are actually still out here as police work this scene.
17th, 2012, Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville is a beautiful place to me. There's a lot of wonderful people, but at the same time, like many cities across the United States, it has its challenges.
I think there's a lot of disparities in Louisville. We still have a very segregated city in the fact that the West End and the East End have very different demographics, and I think that impacts things.
For many years, we have struggled with the violent crime issues here.
32nd and Greenwood is a place that there are, unfortunately, shootings on a regular basis.
And this day is no different. Shortly after 1 p.m., gunfire erupts.
911, I've heard you, Johnson. What's your emergency?
Location of the emergency.
Someone's been shot. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky on 26th.
Okay, is it a shooting, ma'am?
Not breathing.
Okay, ma'am.
911 is flooded with calls reporting a shootout.
Numerous police officers are dispatched to the corner of 32nd Street and Garland. When they arrive, they find multiple victims, 2 who appear to be deceased. They really don't know who the victims are and what happened, so they set up a perimeter and begin the investigation.
Police scanners are quickly filled with reports of the shooting, attracting the attention of reporters, including Jamie Weiss.
I, on that day, was actually working on a different story. We weren't having much luck. So when the call came out on the scanners about a shooting, we were the crew that was assigned to go to that scene and find out what was going on. I think they may have told me that there were several people involved, but outside of that, when you hear shooting, you go and you don't really ask any more questions until you get there and figure out what's going on.
When Jamie arrives on the scene, she is startled by the number of bystanders.
There were a lot of people out. It almost seemed like a large majority of the neighborhood was out there, and it was of every age. There were children out there, there were adults out there, a large crowd, which was really unusual.
After talking to police officers, Jamie goes live to report numerous victims.
We actually just spoke with police, Dawn, to try and clarify exactly what happened. Let me show you the scene here. 32nd between Greenwood Avenue and Kentucky. A lot of police still out here trying to figure out what happened. What we do know right now, 4 people were shot at.
Towards the end of that live report, there was a woman who had shown up, and she was very emotional. She was making a lot of noise. I referenced that in my report. I was not able to make out what she was saying. I honestly was focused on doing my report and blocking that out, honestly, because it was so loud. But I know that she was being held back by somebody else and kind of waving her hands in the air. We went off the air. We were recording right in front of our truck, so we were only a few steps away from it. The woman that had been screaming stopped screaming, as far as I was aware, and we couldn't see her anymore.
Jamie and her cameraman reached their truck and prepared to record some video of the scene.
The photographer I was working with was getting his camera ready to shoot video, and the next thing I heard were some pops.
Startled, she gathers her senses and jumps into the back of the van for cover.
I was terrified when I realized they were shots. I didn't know where they were coming from. I didn't know if bullets were gonna come through the van. I looked up and there were police running past the doors of our truck that were open with their guns drawn. It was complete chaos. We did not feel safe. We didn't know what was going on. So I could see people in the field next to us getting down on the ground, and there were police officers screaming.
Jamie quickly shifts back into reporter mode and chases down witnesses and police officers. She learns the shooting is connected to the woman who was screaming during her news report.
It's just a horrific tragedy for the community. 6 people shot in one day. And police have no idea what in the world is going on. Who are the victims and why have they been shot?
Neighborhood, less than 90 minutes apart, have police perplexed and residents stunned.
Police are still processing one scene, trying to find out who the victims are and who shot who, when another shooting breaks out. And everyone is wondering, are the shootings connected? Or is it just a random act of violence?
When you look at that footage, and I did, and others have, it's beyond heartbreaking because you knew media was down there. You knew law enforcement was down there. And it's the unthinkable that happened, to be quite frank with you, that you couldn't imagine that that could occur in that fashion.
Relatives of the victims quickly hear about the shootings. For Jacqueline Goldsmith, it's a call no mother wants to get.
That day, May 17th, 2012, I see my girlfriend in the store. She's at the store too, and we're talking. And I get the call that something's went down on 32nd with Chitara, and we left. The next thing I know is I call my husband and tell him what's going on.
Desperate to learn what has happened to her 24-year-old daughter, Chitara, Jackie and her friend race to the emergency room.
Well, as we're driving to the hospital, I'm telling my girlfriend, my baby might be dead and all of that. And she says, oh, you don't know that yet, Jackie. We got to get to the hospital.
But at the hospital, no one will tell Jackie what has happened.
They wouldn't give me no information for a while. They wouldn't let me see her or anything. It was rough. And all I could think about was, is my daughter alive? Is she going to make it?
Chitara Goldsmith was born in 1994 in Dayton, Ohio, the youngest of Jacqueline Goldsmith's 3 children.
I was 18 when I met Chitara's father. I was living in Dayton with my auntie, Joyce. Chitara's father and I, we ended up moving to the projects in Dayton because that was the place that we could afford to live, you know. So after a few years, my husband got involved with a bunch of stuff that was going on out there, and so it wasn't a good environment for my children. So I left my husband and brought them back here to Louisville, Kentucky.
Chitara's childhood was a happy one, and her church family played a central role.
She used to love the church, and when she was a little girl, she used to sing in the choir and stuff. I think of things like that when she was really happy.
When we was young, my sister used to be what they call a sunbeam. That's how she started out. She started out with a little bitty kid that was singing. Then she graduated to the choir. Any kind of program that could get us outside of the hood, my mother pushed us toward it.
I was a single parent, and I was raising Chitara, Morris, and Christopher by myself. Being that I'm a nurse, I used to work 2nd and 3rd shift. And my roommate would stay at home and watch my kids. But, you know, you don't make a lot of money, so you have to live where you can afford to live.
Like many residents of poor neighborhoods, Jackie's children had a front row seat to crime and violence.
When my daughter Chitara and my son Morris were little, they were at home. They were looking out the window and they saw some terrible things which would affect anybody.
So me and my sister, we were about, I have to say, about 5 or 6 years old. She used to sit out and just watch them people. She used to watch them play dice. And there was an incident one night. I'm laying in the bed. My sister comes and I was asleep. She wakes me up. Brother, come here. I come to the window and she's like, somebody just got shot. So me and her sit in the window, and we literally looking at the window, peeping down, and I could see the guy laid out. I really think that impacted her very negatively. I think it like stifled her vision of the world, seeing somebody get taken so easily, and her being so young, it changes how you look at things. That was a very pivotal moment, because I think that's the moment where she changed, where her outlook on life, period, changed.
Despite her early brushes with violence, Shatara was determined to make the most out of her life.
Shatara attended Jefferson Community College. I think she was going for business administration. She had a job at Kroger's. She was in the bakery.
In early 2012, Shatara began dating 22-year-old Craig Bland Jr.
Yeah, he was a nice little young man. She brought him to the house. He was very respectful and everything.
The first time I met Craig, it was on Christmas. It was on a Christmas day, and my sister called us and stuff. She's telling us like, yeah, I'm bringing my boyfriend through, right? So we like, man, who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? He had a quiet demeanor, but I didn't feel any bad vibes from him. He was just chill. We ended up eating and chilling. Man, it was a good day. He was a good guy.
Shatara told me that she liked him and she was trying to help Craig because, you know, he didn't have no mother and father. So that's what drew Shatara to Craig.
Like many in the neighborhood, Craig had witnessed more than his share of violent crimes, including one incident when he was 15 years old.
What happened was CJ was going to school one day. He called his cousin BG. BG was somebody from down in the hood. They pulled up to the shorties on 34th, around 34th Street in the West End, and he ended up getting shot. CJ witnessed who did it, and he was young at the time. He ended up having to go to court over it, and he ended up getting on the stand and telling on who the guy was. So, of course, you know, that gets you labeled a snitch in the streets. Everybody turned against him. It messed him up, and it was really impactful for him, man. Changed dude's life, man. I think about that a lot. No one's gonna accept you doing things the right way. What other way is there to do it? And he was kind of forced into it. At a young age, we're talking 14, 15 years old, forced into it.
The shared experience of witnessing a murder strengthened the bond between Craig and Shatara.
I feel like she feel like, hey, I feel your pain. I know where you're coming from. Not sympathizing with him, but empathizing with him. I feel you. I think that was one of the major factors of why she tried so much, because she didn't want to just save him for him. She wanted to save him for her too, for both of them.
While Jacqueline Goldsmith tries to get information about her daughter, Shatara's brother, Morris, also learns about the shooting.
I was at school at the time. I didn't know about anything until I got home. And the first thing that I knew anything about any incident had happened was my mother texted me and said, your sister is dead.
As Louisville police work to uncover the motives behind several shootings in the West End, family members struggle to learn the fate of their loved ones. Believing his sister is dead, Morris Goldsmith decides to head to the crime scene.
And when I got down to 32nd, man, the scene was just, it was crazy. Like, it was like cars put in the middle of the streets, the doors are still open and stuff. Like, the police lines wrapped around everywhere. You can't even get through. So I get to the scene where it actually happened, and the police detectives was like, no, you can't walk through, you can't be over here to do investigating. So I'm mad.
As Morris walks back to the car, an officer follows.
So when we get to the car, that's when the police officer tells me, listen, your sister's not dead. Because I was like, man, is she alive? Is she this? She's that? They said, no, she's in critical condition, but she is alive. She's at the hospital.
Morris races to the hospital and finds a scene that is equally chaotic. Morris asks to see his sister, Shatara. He's told she's in surgery and in critical condition.
My brother's already up there. And when I say my brother was like breaking down, he was like breaking down so bad because this is his little sister. he breaking down so bad that he's just like crying, like on the floor, crying, hitting the floor, all that. And I had to get my brother and say, hey man, like, gain your composure, you know what I'm saying? We gotta stand up, like we gotta be here, we gotta be strong.
You can feel all the tension in the air. And I was scared that Shatara might not make it. And I was upset that all these people had died. It's kind of hard to explain. It's like you're there, but you're not there. And I remember my stepmother saying, she's gonna be all right, Jackie. We're gonna pray for her.
After several hours of nervous waiting, the Goldsmith family finally gets good news from the doctors. Shatara is out of surgery. It appears she'll make a full recovery. But their happiness is short-lived. Police inform them that Shatara was wounded after killing another woman.
They said Shatara shot the girl, and that's why the police shot her. And I was like, but why would Shatara just do that? You know what I'm saying? And then I said, something's got to be wrong, because it's not something she would just do just to be doing. I said to myself, in order for her to do something like that, something had to really, really, really been wrong.
By now, investigators at the scene speak to witnesses and identify the woman Shatara shot as 24-year-old Makiba Lee. Makiba was born in West Louisville and grew up in the Parkland neighborhood.
She was a happy child and always smiling. She loved to read and play games with family and friends.
After graduating from high school, Makiba began dating Tyson Mims.
Tyson Mims had a bad reputation. Tyson had a long rap sheet of crimes, including drug possession, concealing a weapon, and witness tampering. At one point, he was arrested for murder, but the charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. If Makiba Lee really wanted to make something of her life, then Tyson Mims was the last person she wanted to be involved with.
In late 2010, Makiba found out she was pregnant with Tyson's baby, and in 2011, she gave birth to their son. But fractures soon formed in their relationship.
I think Makiba probably wanted Tyson to settle down a bit, maybe get a regular job and help raise their son. But not many bad boys want to do that. So Makiba decided to break things off for a while so she could focus on being a mom.
Becoming a mother also helped Makiba refocus on her future and becoming a better provider.
With the help of her family, she was preparing to enroll in Jefferson Community and Technical College to earn a degree in nursing.
Back at the scene of the second shooting, detectives struggled to uncover a motive. Detectives go back to the hospital to interview Shatara, but she's not in any condition to answer questions.
She suffered several serious gunshot wounds and lost a lot of blood. And as a result, she was heavily medicated by doctors and slept most of the time. So she was really of no help in the investigation.
Investigators working the first shooting continue questioning witnesses and are finally able to identify the two male victims as Craig Bland Jr. and Tyson Mims.
How did Craig and Tyson end up dead? And did their murders have something to do with Shatara shooting Makiba?
As detectives question more witnesses at the crime scene of the initial shooting, they're finally obtaining enough information to put some of the puzzle pieces into place.
Several witnesses said that Tyson pulled up at CJ's house, hopped out of the car, and pulled out a gun. Tyson had some friends with him. CJ was on the porch also with some friends. And then all of a sudden, people started shooting.
Tyson shot CJ in the stomach, and CJ shot Tyson in the face. Both CJ and Tyson sustained very serious wounds, and both are dead before paramedics arrive on scene.
For Craig Bland, it's a tragic end to a violent life lived on the streets of Louisville. Craig and Shatara had only dated for a few months when the relationship moved to the next level.
Craig was one of her first serious boyfriends. And I think that was her first real adult relationship she had.
CJ and Shatara's bond was magical. She felt compelled to be there for him, no matter what. And she lived by that, no matter what.
Shatara knew she'd found the one and fantasized about spending the rest of her life with Craig.
My sister always wanted to be that girl who was married. She wanted to always have that life. She wanted the American dream. She wanted the white picket fence, that dog, that husband. She wanted all of that.
But her mother felt like Shatara wouldn't find that idyllic life in Louisville.
I remember telling Shatara one time that maybe she should go to Florida, where her aunties is, and finish school down there. Shatara was like, well, Mama, if I go down there, he might not want to go with me. And I told Shatara, if he loves you, he'll follow you.
But the draw of the street was just too powerful for Craig.
If you stuck in the hood and you stuck in that mind frame where it's just all about money, drugs, guns, it's hard to move past that and do something else because you're so used to it.
Morris tried to convince his sister to focus on what's best for her.
Every once in a while, she would come to me and she would just, have a heart-to-heart with me about what's going on. And I would tell her, like, sis, at the end of the day, you gotta make sure that you okay. Like, I understand this is someone who you care about, someone you're trying to build a life with, but you gotta make sure that you're okay.
Then, Shatara got news that made leaving Craig even more difficult.
Shatara found out she was pregnant. She told me she was happy, and she was happy with him. So I figured she'd be happy having the baby. She was brought up to be about family. We take care of one another.
She didn't want to leave him and the baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, take the baby from him. She wasn't eager to leave that behind for anything. Leave him behind for anything.
Shatara continued trying to pull Craig from the streets, but instead found herself being sucked into that culture.
My sister was living a double life. Daytime, she's going to school, she's working, she's doing all that. But nighttime, when the sun go down, we in the streets with it. If that meant popping the pills, running around, beating up females we got beef with, she was with it. But she was really like night and day sometimes.
In April 2012, Shatara was arrested for assault and wanton endangerment, but thankfully no one was injured at the time. If Craig couldn't join Shatara to start a new life in Florida, then she was going to join Craig's life in his neighborhood. And eventually, that was going to lead to trouble.
While Shatara was...
There's nothing that you can do because it's too deep. There's blood involved in this situation. People have lost their lives. People have been hurt in this situation. I said, but the best thing you can do, baby, is just stand to the side. You gotta let it play out. If you involve yourself in it, it's not gonna be good for nobody.
While detectives have answered many of the questions surrounding the first shooting, they still need to learn why Makiba Lee was killed. And to do that, the shooting of a civilian by a police officer sparks an immediate internal investigation by the Louisville Police Department's Public Integrity Unit.
Anytime there's a police-involved shooting, which means that a police fired their weapon, there's an internal investigation to make sure that the detective or the officer has done everything in accordance with the law and policies.
Within hours of the shooting, officers who were in the area at the time of the shooting are extensively questioned. The investigation determines that sometime after the initial shooting, Makiba Lee arrived at the scene and wanted to see her boyfriend.
There was an officer whose job was to prevent anyone from wandering into the scene and possibly contaminating evidence. And he described a woman who approached him and asked, "Who got shot? Who got shot?"
The officer asked the woman who she was, and she said, "That's my baby daddy. Tyson's my baby daddy."
The officer was adamant that he couldn't let her through, and she became angry and started screaming, "This ain't over."
The officer watched Makiba, who was with a friend, walk away and disappear into the crowd. A few minutes later, Makiba returned and again asked about Tyson.
Makeba got extremely upset and started yelling at the crowd, screaming profanity, saying things like, F you, this is some BS, this ain't over, F you, payback. Obviously, seeing the father of her child was an extremely traumatic event for Makeba, and you can certainly understand why she was so upset.
Makeba and her friend walked toward a large grassy area at the corner of 32nd and Greenwood, right where the WAVE news van was parked.
The officers see a crowd of people begin to gather in that area, and they worry that a fight is going to break out. So he grabs his partner and starts heading towards the field to try to prevent any violence.
Suddenly, another woman entered the picture. It was Shatara Goldsmith, who had come to the area in search of her boyfriend, Craig.
Shatara learns that Craig is dead, and like Makeba, she becomes extremely upset. Makeba's screaming at the crowd that she wants payback or retribution, and Shatara likely feels the same way.
Shatara had a license to carry a concealed weapon, so she always kept her gun on her.
It is not completely clear if Shatara knows Makeba, but Makeba is making enough ruckus for Shatara to be able to tell that she is related to the guy that killed her boyfriend. As the officers approach the grassy area, one of the officers see Shatara hold a gun up in the air and point it at Makeba. There are over 30 people in the general area, and they scatter everywhere. Of course, officers are trained to respond differently than regular people.
The officers screamed verbal commands for the woman to drop the gun.
The two officers are saying, drop the weapon, police. At the same time, they are lining up a shot to take out the shooter if they have to.
Shatara stood above her, continuing to fire bullets into her body at nearly point-blank range.
Everything just clicked off, and she pulled that gun out, and she shot every bullet she had into that girl.
She just keeps firing at Makeba. The officers, they describe it as an execution. One of the officers, he maneuvers his body so that he can have a clean shot without hitting an innocent bystander.
The officer hit Shatara in the leg. Suddenly, she then turns toward him, her gun pointed straight at his chest.
The officer immediately realizes that he is in her sight, so he fires 2 more. One officer tried to help Makeba, but she is shot multiple times and dies on the scene.
Shatara, in intense pain, asked the officer for help.
Shatara asked the officer, "Do you think I'm gonna lose my baby?"
Shatara was only 2 months pregnant, so she wasn't really showing, but she was even more so concerned because her boyfriend was gone.
Shatara tells the officer that if he gets her help, she would tell him exactly what happened.
A few minutes later, the ambulance arrives and they put her on the gurney. But the officers, they are so busy that they don't have time to talk to her before she goes to the hospital.
The internal investigation clears Louisville police officers of wrongdoing, determining that they were justified in using force to disarm Shatara.
So Shatara just murdered a woman in cold blood and was also a risk to many people nearby. So that was the account of the police officers. But the question is, will Shatara tell a different story?
After fatally shooting Makeba Lee, Shatara Goldsmith is herself shot by a Louisville police officer. The day after the shooting, Shatara is questioned at the hospital by detectives. But she claims she doesn't remember anything about the shooting.
She basically said that all she remembered was Craig being on the ground. And then she heard someone saying she would be next. And then the next thing she remembered was bullets hitting her. She absolutely could not remember anything involving the shooting of Makeba.
Who knows where her mind was at the time, you know what I'm saying? She was probably so devastated that she probably wasn't even thinking at all or thinking right at all.
When someone goes through an extremely traumatic experience, it can cause them to react and do something they wouldn't normally do. I believe that day when she saw Craig's dead body lying on the ground, she realized that she wasn't going to get the perfect life that she so much wanted. And so she lashed out at the only thing she had available to her, the girlfriend of the man she believed to have killed Craig. She didn't really kill for her man as much as she did because of her man.
The trauma of being shot causes Shatara to lose her pregnancy.
She was highly upset because Shatara doesn't have any children, and that would have been her first child.
3 days after the shooting, Shatara is released from the hospital and booked into jail. She's charged with murder and wanton endangerment.
And I told her, like, sis, you know, I don't condone what you did. Because I don't condone taking life. I'm gonna ride in this car with you. I'm on your side. Right, wrong, good or bad, whatever. And she told me, like, she's not proud of it. She's not proud. It's not something that she walks around with that she feels like she was justified for. And I want to make this clear for everyone. She don't feel justified for it. She don't feel like she was right for it, any of that.
On Monday, May 21st, 4 days after the shootings, a funeral for Makiba Lee takes place at Portland Memorial Baptist Church in West Louisville.
Attending Makiba's funeral was as sad as it could be, and you felt the weight in that space where her services were happening at. The weight was deep, the loss is deep, and people's hearts went out to our entire family.
There were concerns amongst the family and community in general that there might be more violence, perhaps retaliation against the Lee family. And so there was a very heavy police presence outside of the funeral.
Unfortunately, over time, because of the redundancy of violent crime acts, the police presence at funeral homes has been kind of a staple in Metro Louisville now, because funeral providers will ask for that. Families were asked for that, and they deserve that, to try to have some sense of peace in regards to what has happened to their loved one.
It's a scene that's repeated in the funerals for Craig Bland Jr. and Tyson Mims.
When you look at the Lee family, the Bland family, the Mims family, the Goldsmith family, when you look at that situation, from my perspective, you gotta look at it from a perspective of devastation across the board. So all you can do is be sympathetic to the constant, unfortunate cycle that we've been subjected to when these things happen, of trying to figure out when will we see better days.
In March 2015, Shatara enters an Alford plea to the charges against her.
An Alford plea means that you don't take responsibility for what happened, but you understand that there's enough evidence to show that you were responsible.
For some, the plea raises eyebrows.
There was enough evidence of what happened and what she did. Everybody saw it. But the court system in this country works in weird ways that are hard to understand. There were a lot of people involved in that violence, and a lot of those people live in that neighborhood, and that violence continues. So even though a lot of people saw it, that doesn't mean after the fact that they felt safe saying what they saw.
The Commonwealth attorney said that if they would have took this case to trial, that they probably would convict her of manslaughter instead of murder.
Shatara is sentenced to 25 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 20.
Makiba's mother, she was so frustrated about the light sentence for such a cold-blooded murder that she called it a slap on the wrist.
I don't think Shatara got a slap on the wrist. I don't think she got a slap on the wrist at all. And I understand that once your child dies, that child is not coming back, but there are circumstances to everything. And I know that Shatara didn't do it purposely, that she snapped, that was something that she didn't mean to do. And so I don't think 25 years of her life or 20 years of her life is a slap on the wrist. 20 years is a whole lifetime for some folks.
At the hearing, Shatara does take responsibility for her actions, while continuing to claim she doesn't really know why she killed Makiba Lee.
Makiba's death was completely senseless. She didn't do anything wrong. The only thing she was doing was mourning the death of her man, so she had no reason to be killed by Shatara.
Shatara's very remorseful, and she's very sorry. She's sorry for Makiba. She's sorry for Makiba's child that is raised without a mother. And she's sorry that all of that happened. We've had conversations where she was like, Mama, if I could do it all over again, I just would have went to Florida and none of this would have happened.
Shatara is serving her time at Kentucky's Correctional Institution for Women, Pewee Valley. But her popularity among prisoners doesn't prevent her from getting into trouble. In fact, it seems to add to it.
Every time something goes on, they always making it like Shatara is the one who's causing all these problems. Or they put her in the hole a lot and everything, because she is opinionated and she tells them, you know, that she's a human being and she has rights. And when she tries to stick up for her rights, then they want to stick her in the hole all the time.
Single mother who is climbing towards a bright future.
You couldn't help but to smile being around her.
She wanted to work even harder to provide a better life for herself and for her children.
She never expected to find love in her own neighborhood.
Hey, you need some help?
But when it showed up on her doorstep, she was like a moth to the flame.
They immediately hit it off.
She loved that he was the strong, silent type.
However, the whirlwind romance would be cut short by an unthinkable tragedy.
She is cold to the touch, and rigor mortis has already set in.
This was one of those cases that was an eyebrow raiser from the start.
Her body didn't have any visible signs of trauma, no gunshot wounds, no stabs.
As investigators pore over the case, the mystery only deepens.
Someone has carved an obscenity in the side of her car.
He was just one of those guys that couldn't seem to stay out of trouble.
He was not all the way right in the mind. His mind is gone.
Detectives would soon learn that a twisted mind can be just as dangerous as a lethal weapon.
He's not telling the whole story.
He has a psychotic disorder.
His anger and controlling tendencies were spiraling completely out of control.
Thursday, February 4th, 2016. It's lunchtime in Waco, Texas, a quiet community located halfway between Dallas and Austin.
It's a city dubbed the heart of Texas.
It's been a community experiencing quite a bit of growth in the last 10 or 15 years. It's a community on the rise, but very close-knit one.
However, one close-knit Waco family has spent their day in a panic. At 12:30 p.m., Latasha Kenton arrives at the home of her 29-year-old niece, Nikki Walker.
Well, I just got here. No one has seen or heard from Nikki in the last few days.
Nikki hadn't called to check on her two kids, who were staying at her grandmother's for the week, while Nikki worked late shifts at her new job.
She was really a devoted mother, close to her children, and she would make phone calls to them when she was on break from work. She didn't make her typical routine phone calls, which raised red flags to the family.
Her family was growing increasingly concerned, so her aunt decided to check the home.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try to get inside. Well, her car is here, so that's a good sign.
She saw Nikki's car parked in the front yard.
I'll keep you posted. All right.
And when Latasha approaches the vehicle, she notices her niece inside.
Nikki!
Inside the car, Nikki is in the front seat, but she is unconscious and unresponsive.
Latasha makes a desperate call to 911. But when police arrive, it's clear there's no saving LaTosha's niece.
As soon as they touch her body, they realize, unfortunately, they're too late.
No pulse.
Oh, Nikki!
She is cold to the touch, and rigor mortis has already set in.
Nikki Walker is dead.
Unikia Walker, also known as Nikki, carried a radiant energy with her wherever she went.
Nikki had a very infectious personality where you couldn't help but to smile being around her.
She was bubbly and fun-loving and eager to enjoy new experiences. Nikki had 2 children that she adored.
As a single mom with 2 little mouths to feed, Nikki was no stranger to hard work.
Hey, girl. Yeah, I can cover for you. Let me just make sure my grandma can watch the kids, okay?
For a while, she worked as a customer service representative for a Texas utility company.
But she wasn't satisfied with where she was in life, so she wanted to work even harder to provide a better life for herself and for her children.
And that's what led her to decide to go back to school and further her career.
She enrolled in Texas State Technical College.
Nikki's goal was to get a job in security technologies, and before long, she'd do just that.
She started a position at a well-known aerospace and defense company.
She had built a really good life for herself.
And in the spring of 2015, she'd find a partner to share it with.
Hey, you need some help?
That's okay. I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, let me help you out here.
36-year-old Marcus Scott lived in Nikki's neighborhood, just a couple streets away.
Marcus was the strong, silent type.
Nikki was drawn in by his sweet and gentle demeanor.
Thank you. It's been a long day.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I live right down the street if you ever need anything.
Good to know.
Between work, school, and being a single mom, Nikki didn't get out very much. So dating someone who lived in her neighborhood seemed like a perfect scenario.
It seemed like a match made in heaven.
But for long, they were inseparable, hanging out all the time.
The kids liked spending time with him as much as she did.
Nikki wanted a man who would stay by her side and help her raise her children.
Nikki really saw a future with this individual and thought they could be together.
So how did she end up dead in the driveway of her own home?
Judging by the fact that her body was cold to the touch and rigor mortis had already set in, police can tell Nikki has already been dead as long as 48 hours.
But what happened to her?
Her body didn't have any visible signs of trauma, no gunshot wounds, no stabs, no abrasions, none of those things were seen.
This was one of those cases that was an eyebrow raiser from the start. So from Jump Street, we're talking about a bit of a mystery as to how she got to where she got and what had happened to her leading to her death.
Police began to speculate that maybe Nikki passed away from some type of medical issue or possibly even a drug overdose.
However, on the exterior of Nikki's vehicle, investigators locate a telling clue that suggests otherwise.
Detectives, come take a look at this.
Someone has carved the word in the paint.
That is someone who has thought about this. They know what they're going to do.
At 29 years old, Nikki Walker had already built a great life for herself in Waco, Texas.
With 2 healthy children, a good job, and a good man by her side, she had everything that she ever wanted.
But now Nikki has been found dead inside her car. And based on the initial evidence, it looks like she was murdered.
Detectives, come check this out.
On the exterior of the vehicle, someone has carved the word in the paint.
Clearly, someone with a motivation or animosity toward Nikki had damaged her car.
And a closer look at Nikki's body reveals additional signs of foul play.
Once detectives check her eyes, they see burst blood vessels, telltale signs of strangulation.
Strangulation is an incredibly intimate act.
It requires a killer to stare into their victim's eyes for several minutes while they choke them.
Someone has to be extremely motivated to actually strangle a person to death. Whoever committed this crime had personal reasons to do so.
Inside the vehicle, investigators notice another clue.
And that's the blood stain on the passenger seat of the vehicle.
There aren't any injuries on Nikki that would produce a blood stain, so investigators believed that the blood that they found belonged to Nikki's killer.
Crime scene technicians take photographs. They swab the vehicle inside and out, and specifically, the blood stain was swabbed.
They don't locate any other blood evidence inside the home.
Meanwhile, Nikki's family is becoming more and more desperate for answers.
Many of the victims' loved ones have already received the news and are showing up at the scene.
Her family was actually in the process of filing a missing persons report right before her aunt discovered the body.
So sorry for your loss, but please know we're going to do everything we can to bring Nikki's killer to justice.
Thank you.
Nikki's relatives are just devastated from the news that Nikki has been murdered.
None of her family could believe that someone as kind and caring as Nikki could have been harmed in such a way.
You know, she didn't deserve this.
Because the way the murder was committed was so personal, the police asked Nikki's family if she had been involved in any type of dating relationships.
Romantic partners are almost always the place to start in any type of homicide investigation.
She was seeing a guy from the neighborhood named Marcus.
According to Nikki's family, they had only been together for about 6 weeks.
However, detectives still know that Marcus is someone they need to talk to right away.
We'll be sure to keep you updated.
So after leaving the crime scene, detectives head straight to Marcus's house.
When detectives approach the front door, they can smell food cooking and hear a TV playing inside the home.
Marcus Scott?
It's obvious someone is inside the house, but when they knock on the door, no one answers.
Marcus, it's the police. We need to talk to you.
They make several attempts to get Marcus's attention, but he never comes to the door.
To the investigators, this is a huge red flag that Marcus may be hiding something. Why would an innocent person refuse to answer the door?
Waco homicide detectives investigating the murder of Nikki Walker are attempting to speak with her boyfriend, Marcus Scott.
Hello, anybody home?
They can hear the TV playing, but he refuses to answer the door.
They can't help but wonder if he is avoiding them because he has some type of involvement in this crime.
Without a warrant, the only thing detectives can do is instruct officers to continue patrolling the area and wait for Marcus to emerge.
We're headed back to headquarters. Let us know if you make any contact.
And later that evening, investigators are in luck.
At about 9:30 p.m., the patrol officer notices Marcus standing outside with another man.
Marcus Scott? Yes, officer.
The officer approaches Marcus and informs him that detectives are looking to speak with him about Nikki's death.
Detectives came by to talk to you earlier this morning. You didn't answer the door. Why not? Oh, that was you guys? My bad. I was a little preoccupied.
Marcus told them that he heard knocks earlier that day, but he was in the bathroom and he couldn't answer the door. By the time he came out, he said they were gone.
Marcus says he was devastated to learn about Nikki's untimely death.
We weren't together for long, but man, I really cared about her.
Marcus appears to be cooperative.
He said he wants to speak to the detectives to clear his name.
Okay, well, you can come back with me to the station. Who's your friend here?
That's just my boy, Leland.
Leland?
Yeah.
Leland Marsh?
The officer recognized the name Leland Marsh.
ID.
Leland has a warrant out for his arrest for a burglary charge.
He was just one of those guys that couldn't seem to stay out of trouble with the law.
Guess what, Leland? You get to ride with me, too. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
What? Man.
Back at police headquarters, the detectives investigating Nikki's murder sit down with Marcus Scott.
Tell us about your relationship with Nikki Walker.
Well, I met her about a month ago.
He proceeds to tell detectives that they had an on-again, off-again relationship, but they maintained a friends with benefit type relationship.
Did you kill Nikki Walker?
No, absolutely not.
Do you know who did?
No, I wish I did, but no.
He wasn't able to provide any other leads.
Detectives are still suspicious of Marcus, but they'll need more than just a hunch to solve this case.
Not only was Marcus Nikki's last romantic partner, but it also appears that Marcus was avoiding the detectives.
There was some investigating to be done, but they were believing that Marcus had something to do with it.
All right. Thank you for your time, Marcus.
No problem.
And the next morning, detectives learn there's an inmate at the county jail with some promising information for them.
Homicide. Oh, he does. Interesting. Yeah, we'll be right down. Gotta go.
The informant is none other than Marcus's friend, Leland Marsh. Leland admits it's been difficult for him to come forward.
This is one of my childhood friends. When I was homeless, his mother took me in. You know what I'm saying?
You really were close?
But when Leland heard about what happened to Nikki, he started to get an uneasy feeling.
There were some things that were not adding up about Marcus's actions in the hours before Nikki was killed.
Investigators believe that Nikki was killed sometime between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning.
It had to be Tuesday night. I dropped Marcus off at a house like maybe 1 in the morning.
But Leland tells police that when he dropped Marcus off, Nikki was not at her home.
Don't let anybody hear, man.
It's okay, I'll wait.
She used to get off work at, I think, 12:45. And Marcus would be like, well, drop me off over here. And I'm like, Marcus, bro, what, you just gonna be sitting outside till she come?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, she'll be in here in a minute.
Leland says that he offered to drop Marcus off at a later time when Nikki was home, but Marcus refused.
Hey, you sure?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'll see you later.
All right, peace.
I remember I talked to him the next day, which was Wednesday. I talked to him, I'm like, bro, what happened with Lil Mom? You stayed over there last night? He's like, nah, she never came home, so I walked to the house.
So she never came home?
Yeah, he's like, she never came home.
And on Thursday, Leland says he found out the terrible news.
When I passed by the house, I'm like, damn, they had yellow tape off, and I'm like, man, I hope nothing happened. So I got out and I talked to this old lady, and I'm like, man, what happened?
Is Nikki okay?
She's like, my niece is dead.
While he was still at the scene, Leland immediately called Marcus.
I called Marcus, and he answered the phone. And I'm like, bro, the girl dead, bro, Nikki dead, bro. You know, so somebody killed her, bro.
But to Leland's surprise, Marcus didn't react the way he thought he would.
But Marcus was not showing no emotion.
Yeah, man. I mean, it is what it is, you know?
Marcus was like, we just broke up.
I understand that. Just broken up. This is someone you this is a relationship with.
Every day.
You're going to have some kind of reaction.
Something about that didn't sit right. Even though they were no longer a couple, something as horrific as a homicide should at least warrant some type of reaction.
Leland admits that even when Marcus and Nikki were together, their relationship was rocky.
Based on the arguments that he heard when they were together, Nikki felt like Marcus was smothering her.
Marcus, this is just becoming too much. I need space.
She had started meeting new people, going out to clubs. She was like, Marcus, you know, you want me to be around you 24/7. I got my own life, I want to have fun. I'm 29. Let me have some fun.
According to Leland, Marcus could not bear to give Nikki the space that she needed.
What, you trying to sleep around or something?
Marcus thought that she was messing with another dude.
Is there another man?
Another.
He was not okay with that. That was the tipping point.
Waco detectives investigating the death of single mother Nikki Walker are speaking with Leland Marsh, a friend of Nikki's ex, Marcus Scott. According to Leland, Marcus was exhibiting suspicious behavior in the days before Nikki's body was discovered.
For investigators, what Leland is saying raises even more red flags around Marcus.
It had to be Tuesday night. I dropped Marcus off at our house like maybe 1 in the morning.
Detectives can now place him at the scene of the crime within the time frame that Nikki was killed.
Additionally, Leland claims that days prior to her death, Nikki told Marcus she needed some space, and he didn't take it well.
Is there another man?
Another.
She was establishing that this wasn't working and that she was ending things. He was not okay with that. That was the tipping point.
Marcus is not all the way right in the mind. If you know him from like when I know him to now, that's not the same person.
Do you know what happened to him?
And he went to prison.
In the early 2000s, Marcus spent 7 years in prison for weapon charges and organized crimes.
He came out of prison, he's just not the same person.
What's changed?
Everything. I don't know how to explain it. He sit down, then he'll jump up, turn around in a circle, and sit back down. Or he'll get out the car, just stand there and look down the street. I don't know if his mind is gone, you know.
After speaking with Leland, detectives are convinced that Marcus was involved in Nikki's murder.
Why didn't he mention getting dropped off at Nikki's house on Tuesday night?
The aggression, the attachment style, those are all very alarming.
And later that afternoon, Nikki's cousin Floyd Jordan comes forward with even more damning information about Marcus.
The man was no good for her.
Floyd tells the police that Marcus was abusing Nikki.
She didn't break up with him for nothing. He's dangerous.
Floyd tells the detectives that the reason Nikki and Marcus's relationship ended was because of Marcus's violent tendencies.
Tell me!
Nikki came to the realization that not only was it dangerous for her to be around Marcus, but it was dangerous for her kids as well. She didn't want them to be around that.
But Floyd says Marcus refused to take no for an answer.
He was stalking her and showing up to our house unannounced.
He would show up there. He would wait for her in the dark, wait for her at midnight.
She caught him peeking in her windows before.
Floyd tells detectives the situation came to a head on Tuesday night.
She called me Tuesday in the middle of the night, freaking out.
Nikki told Floyd that she had just recently driven home from work and found Marcus waiting for her on her porch.
Oh my God, he's on my front porch. What should I do?
You need to get out of there.
Detectives realize what they're hearing from Floyd directly contradicts what Marcus told Leland.
Marcus told Leland that Nikki never came home that night after he dropped them off.
I told her to come pick me up and I helped get him to leave.
He felt like he could protect her if Marcus tried anything.
So she picked me up and we went back to the house.
Marcus, what are you doing here?
I just want to talk to you. That's all.
No! It's late, and I'm over this.
Come on, man. Go home.
But once again, Marcus refused to let up.
Marcus's entire demeanor shifted.
Man, who the hell you think you are, huh?
Just leave!
He was threatening her and basically laying out what he was going to do if she left him.
I'm gonna leave. Whoa.
Waco detectives investigating the murder of Nikki Walker are speaking with her cousin, Floyd Jordan. Floyd has just revealed that Nikki's tumultuous relationship with her ex, Marcus Scott, came to a head on the night of February 2nd.
Man, who the hell you think you are, huh?
Just leave!
I'm gonna leave. Whoa.
He was threatening her and basically laying out what he was going to do if she left him.
You're not leaving me. You know that, right?
Marcus, just stop, okay?
You're gonna regret it if you try to leave me. I promise you that.
Cool it, man.
Hands off me. Leave.
Floyd tells detectives that eventually Marcus stormed off in a rage. But it wasn't the last they heard from him that night.
Floyd says Marcus continued to text Nikki threatening messages.
Oh my God.
Damn, this dude isn't letting up.
What if he comes back?
The messages were so alarming that Nikki was afraid to be home alone.
Why don't you stay at my place tonight?
Okay, yeah. That might be for the better.
Let's get out of here.
Floyd tells detectives that the last time he or anyone else saw Nikki, she was leaving his house at 4 a.m. the next morning.
All of this wasn't just a coincidence. It was Marcus. I know it was him. He killed Nikki.
Floyd speculates that maybe he went back to her house to wait for her to show up there.
Whatever option you go with, to him, Marcus Scott was guilty.
Thank you so much, Floyd. We really do appreciate you coming forward with all this.
He became essential to our case because now we've got a timeline where almost immediately before the murder's committed and her body's found, we've got our suspect threatening to do her harm.
After speaking with Floyd, detectives do a deep dive into Marcus's past.
They knew, according to Leland, Marcus had been to prison before, but they didn't know the extent of his crimes.
They find that Marcus has an alarming, decade-long criminal history, including convictions for deadly conduct, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and engaging in organized criminal activity.
And as they continue their investigation, detectives uncover another shocking piece of information.
In a substantially similar case, the detectives learned that in 2015, Marcus had broken into an ex-girlfriend's house and threatened to assault her.
When detectives contact the ex-girlfriend, she admits Marcus became violent with her on several occasions.
And she says that she eventually broke up with him because of how violent and possessive that he became.
Just like with Nikki, Marcus would show up to her home unannounced and would begin following her around as well.
To detectives, it's evidence of a disturbing and escalating pattern of behavior, but it's still not proof of murder.
They knew they had to talk to Marcus Scott again and confront him with the information that they had learned.
So detectives bring him in under the guise of a simple follow-up interview.
Marcus, thanks for coming back in.
No problem.
And this time, something on Marcus's leg catches their eye.
Marcus has scratches on his shin.
He had long pants on when they previously interviewed him.
What happened to your leg? That looks pretty painful.
When the detectives ask how he obtained these scratches, Marcus tells them that they are the result of an accident he had with a screen door.
It scraped me pretty bad.
They become even more convinced that Marcus is not telling the whole story.
Remind us again, when was the last time you and Nikki got together?
Sunday.
You sure?
Yeah.
We have reason to believe that's not true.
He doesn't mention anything about Leland dropping him off at her home on Tuesday night.
You saw her Tuesday, didn't you?
You two had an argument that night?
What? No, I never saw her on Tuesday.
Well, you willing to take a polygraph test to prove that?
Sure.
Although reluctant, Marcus does agree to go through with the lie detector test.
Did you get into an argument with Nikki Walker on Tuesday night, April 2nd?
No.
Did you harm Nikki Walker?
No.
Initially, he had denied any involvement, denied any violence in the relationship in the past, but then he fails the polygraph.
However, when detectives confront Marcus about the polygraph test results, he still doesn't waver.
All right, Marcus, tests show you're being deceptive. It's time to start telling the truth.
No, I didn't kill her. We got into a few arguments. Yeah, but nothing too crazy.
Marcus admits that he had been violent with Nikki in the past. He stated at one point he actually hit Nikki to get off of him during a fight that they had, which Nikki initiated.
And then he admits to play choking her during an argument in January.
Play choke?
Yeah, but we were just messing around, that's all.
He continues to maintain that he had absolutely nothing to do with the murder.
And unfortunately for investigators, the results of the polygraph can't be used as evidence in court.
There's really good reason for that. Polygraph examinations, they're not a lie detector test. What they do is they measure sweat levels, heart rate, things that generally can be associated with deception. So they certainly have their value. They're just not admissible in any courtroom.
Therefore, with no confession or any other hard evidence, detectives will be forced to let Marcus go once again.
While Marcus's lies and his troubling relationship with Nikki point towards guilt, the detectives have no forensic evidence to prove that Marcus committed this murder.
But before he leaves, detectives obtain a sample of Marcus's DNA.
It could be months until they receive the results from the DNA evidence found at the crime scene, and eventually those months turn into years.
The Waco DPS crime lab, where we send blood to be analyzed for DNA, it simply takes time. It's a time-consuming process, and across the state of Texas, Waco included, forensic crime labs are overloaded with the amount of things that they have to test.
Nikki's loved ones start to grow worried that they will never receive justice for what has been done to her.
But then, on March 19th, 2018, more than 2 years after Nikki was killed, there's a breakthrough.
Detectives receive word from the crime lab that they have completed testing on the specimens submitted in Nikki's case.
Marcus's blood was found at the crime scene. There's no longer any doubt on who's behind this murder.
The investigators believe that the blood came from the cut that he had on his leg.
Armed with their smoking gun, detectives file a warrant for Marcus's arrest on April 6th, 2018.
Marcus is taken into custody that same day.
He refuses to answer any more questions and asks for a lawyer.
And while justice for Nikki is long overdue, it looks like her loved ones may have to wait even longer.
Marcus is deemed incompetent to stand trial due to a psychotic disorder.
He punches a nurse who's trying to provide him with treatment.
Waco investigators finally have Marcus Scott in custody for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Nikki Walker.
2 years went by without them being able to convict anyone for Nikki's murder.
But now they have DNA evidence to prove that Marcus's blood was in Nikki's car. Along with other circumstantial evidence, this case seemed like a slam dunk.
But in February of 2020, the case hits another roadblock.
During a pretrial hearing in February of 2020, Marcus is deemed incompetent to stand trial due to a psychotic disorder.
In order to be incompetent, there has to be proof that an individual does not understand the consequences of decisions that they can make.
As a result of this diagnosis, Marcus's trial is paused until he is able to get the necessary treatment.
What usually happens in Texas is that somebody who is held incompetent, they get sent to a state hospital until they regain competence. Some people never regain competence, some people do.
All right, Mr. Scott, open up.
But even in the hospital, Marcus's violent tendencies emerge.
He punches a nurse who's trying to provide him with treatment. Ultimately, Marcus was charged with aggravated assault on a public servant, which is a third-degree felony.
3 years later, after undergoing additional psychiatric evaluation, Marcus is finally deemed competent to stand trial. But a new curveball hits this already muddled case.
Marcus goes blind during his time in the hospital due to glaucoma.
Marcus was a very different person than he was when he committed this murder. He was almost completely blind. It's a challenge from the outset because when jurors walk in, who they see seated at counsel table next to his attorney is a fairly nondescript, relatively thin blind man.
However, prosecutors warn jurors not to be fooled.
Prosecutors paint him as a vengeful ex who could not stand the rejection from Nikki Walker.
They point to Marcus' previous relationships and arrest history as proof that his anger and controlling tendencies were spiraling completely out of control.
And we had family violence experts come and testify to those dynamics and what jurors can expect statistically when it comes to this kind of homicide. Any individual in a domestic relationship with a strangulation event in that relationship is 700% more likely to ultimately take that person's life.
And prosecutors believe that's exactly what happened to Nikki.
Marcus had become physically aggressive with her.
Marcus himself admitted to their arguments becoming violent at times.
As far as Nikki was concerned, this wasn't something that she was willing to put up with.
And when she broke up with Marcus at the end of January, prosecutors say it was like lighting a fuse on a time bomb.
Nikki was ready to end the relationship. And when you're talking about family violence cases, the most dangerous time is when the relationship is ending, because the control and power that the abusive partner has is about to end.
It finally sunk in that the relationship was over. Nikki was not going to take him back.
At that point, instead of letting Nikki walk away, Marcus decided that if he couldn't have her, no one else could either.
Prosecutors believe that after the Tuesday night confrontation with Floyd and Nikki, Marcus returned to Nikki's house.
She came back home around 4:30 a.m.
When Nikki returned to the house, Marcus was waiting on her.
Marcus, what are you doing?
Marcus managed to overpower Nikki and wrap his hands around her throat. He held his grip until she was dead.
With his adrenaline pumping, Marcus didn't realize his shin had smeared blood onto the passenger seat.
Then Marcus carved the obscenity into the side of her car.
Then he fled the scene and went back home as if nothing had happened.
The defense argues just because Marcus's blood was in the car doesn't prove anything.
Their story is a simple one, that we can't meet our burden, which is beyond a reasonable doubt, because the evidence or the investigation is insufficient to reach that burden.
Marcus claims that his blood must have gotten in the car from the other times that him and Nikki have had fights.
Prosecutors refuted this by saying the blood found in the passenger seat was bright red, indicating that it was fresh, as if it's only been there a day or two. And Marcus was seen with a wound on his leg.
When the jury retires to deliberate, it takes them just 30 minutes to return with a verdict. Marcus Scott is found guilty of first-degree felony murder.
Marcus was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Although Marcus received the maximum sentence for his crimes, Nikki's loved ones still struggle to deal with the loss that will now forever haunt them.
There's no winners when we come out of a trial like this.
Although I think that justice was served, I think that it's a lose-lose situation because now her children are left without a mom.
It's just a very, very sad experience, especially for her children who now have to grow up without their mother. And then the memory of such a violent way that they lost their mother. So that's gonna impact them and everyone who knew her.
It takes someone who is extremely deranged to do the sort of things that Marcus did. This crime was so senseless, and now we have to mourn the loss of this vibrant, beautiful...
There was nothing more important to her than family.
She was super proud of her kids. She and her brother were peas in a pod. You call, she coming.
And she'd married the love of her life.
Usually that first love doesn't stick.
It was like, oh my God, you are so lucky, girl.
But in one horrific moment, her luck changed.
There's blood everywhere. She was stabbed 39 times.
She very clearly fought like hell.
And she's not the only victim.
The second victim was her daughter.
It's a confounding crime with no clear suspect.
We had to explore every avenue.
You think that it? Yeah.
This case was tricky.
Or is the truth just too difficult to believe?
She had met somebody.
Yeah, I won't get it. I explained to him, like, look, just smack her Earl.
November 25th, 2016. It's Black Friday in Rochester, New York, a city upstate known for its small-town charm.
In Rochester, people are just kind. They're genuine.
It's a really great place to live, a great place to raise a family. It's one of those cities that's not too big. You're definitely going to have a slower lifestyle.
But for one Rochester family, this morning will be anything but slow.
Mom?
It's a little after 7 a.m. when one of Christy Brooks' daughters makes her way upstairs to her mother's bedroom.
Mom!
It was located in a third floor, rather nice bedroom conversion of an attic.
And for the past couple of days, she'd been sharing the room with her oldest daughter, Victoria, who was home from college for Thanksgiving.
But neither had come downstairs yet.
Vic? Christy was supposed to be at work early because she works at Walmart and it was Black Friday.
Mom, it's past 7 o'clock.
She wouldn't miss her shift, so it was strange that she was not up on time.
Little can prepare her for what lies behind the bedroom door.
The room was in disarray.
Christy Brooks was laying face down on her bed.
Victoria was on the ground, face up.
There was blood everywhere.
35-year-old Christy Brooks had always been full of life.
She was a pistol from the get-go.
She just had a real infectious personality. She was just a genuine person. She kept it real. She was Christy. And just to know her was to love her.
And her first love was a boy named Patrick Brooks.
She was 14 when they met, and he was just about 16. Look what we just got.
Oh, man.
You want to go?
Heck yeah.
It was like, oh my God, you are so lucky, girl. God really blessed you with this one.
He seemed to honestly care about her. Usually that first love doesn't stick. This one seemed to stick.
It was just like they were meant to be like soulmates. You could just tell. After Christy and Pat got together, there was no one else. Like, that was her world. And it was the same for him.
But it wasn't just the two of them for long.
She was 16, and he had just turned 18 when Victoria was born.
So they had a lot of extra challenges because, let's be honest, they were not fully hatched at that age either.
Then 2 years later, their daughter Lexi was born.
Motherhood to my best friend was like life, like breathing air. It just came natural to her.
Patrick and Christy married, and over the next several years, had 6 more children.
I always used to laugh at her when she would call me to let me know she was having another baby. I'm like, you and Pat gonna have to stop. But she wouldn't trade them for the world. She was super proud of her kids. She pushed them in everything that they did.
She was one of these who saw all her kids as individuals and went out of her way to make sure there were different things they could do that interested each of them.
She was always at every game, every event. She made sure that they had the best, they got what they needed.
To provide it, Christy took a customer service job at a local big box store.
She always worked hard. She was a customer service manager and, in charge of cashiers and so on, and was on track to be promoted to assistant manager.
But she encouraged her kids to aim even higher.
Mom, can you help me with this one?
She really valued an education for her kids because she wanted them, I think, to have opportunities she kind of gave up because she was busy supporting them.
Honey, have you heard anything about that scholarship yet?
Oh, I didn't check today.
And by 2016, Christy's eldest daughter was well on her way to a bright future.
Oh my gosh, I got it.
Victoria was on a full ride scholarship to Canisius College.
She really, much like her mother, was someone who was a go-getter, and she didn't shy away from hard work.
And the other children were following in her footsteps.
It was just like a picture-perfect family.
But there was something wrong with the picture.
Patrick had started to drink and get into drugs.
Patrick was mostly involved with cocaine, and cocaine will do bad things to people.
Like, weed, yeah, okay, whatever. But like hardcore drugs, nah, not Pat. So it was really a shock.
And it became a real problem.
Which led to a couple of stints in jail.
Several of his incarcerations were at a state drug camp. And he'd come home and be clean for a while, and then something would happen.
And if Patrick's struggles weren't enough, a fire destroyed the family's home in July of 2016.
It was a combination, I think, of kids playing around, and there were also electrical issues. So it was never really determined precisely how the fire started, but that house basically burned to the ground. There was nothing left to go back to.
Christy's family was able to help them financially, and a couple of months later, they found a place with room for all of the children.
Dad found this giant house over on Wellington, and he wrote a check. He said, here you go, here's the house.
And by the time the Thanksgiving holidays rolled around, it seemed like things were finally on the upswing.
Victoria was home on break from college.
Patrick had recently been released from prison, so the whole family was together for Thanksgiving.
But now, the family's holiday weekend has come to a sudden, horrific end.
1 center, what's the emergency?
My mom and my sister are dead.
Dispatch immediately sends officers to the scene.
They're covered in blood.
Seeing your mother and your sister murdered at the same time is just too overwhelming.
Just try to focus on taking some deep breaths to try to calm yourself down, okay? We have help and we have everyone on their way to you.
When police arrive a few minutes later, they confirm that Christy and Victoria are both dead.
It was tough because it was, it's a young girl and her mom.
And according to Christy's oldest surviving daughter, her mom was the only adult inside the house.
Patrick and his wife were separated.
35-year-old Christy Brooks had a full and busy life.
She had a great job, a large, loving family, and a new home.
They had just set up the house a month or two before and were settling in well, and the kids were happy.
But now, police have found Christy and her oldest daughter dead in the home's upstairs bedroom.
One of her children came into the room and found both her mom and sister deceased and called 911.
When we entered into the house, there were other family members in the house.
Officers had instructed Lexi to get her siblings and exit the house.
While first responders arranged for Child Protective Services to take care of Christy's surviving children, the detectives head upstairs to the crime scene.
When we walked in, you could see the two bodies in the bedroom.
They both suffered multiple stab wounds.
Christy's body is face down on the bed.
Christy didn't really have much of a chance to confront or fight her attacker. She didn't really get a chance to move out of the bed. That suggested to us that she was most likely surprised by the attacker.
Based on the evidence, detectives believe she was the first victim.
The second victim was her daughter, and she was found on the floor closest to the entrance in this bedroom. She had defense wounds on her hands and the front of her body, so it was apparent that she had confronted this attacker.
To her left was a big pool of blood, which indicated to us that she had been moved.
There were contents of a purse or some sort of wallet strewn about the room. Victoria Brooks's driver's license was on the floor.
But her cash and debit card hadn't been taken.
However, we had noticed that both the victims' cell phones had been taken.
That was very unusual. In this day and age, especially an 18-year-old girl, her cell phone is going to be right next to her at night.
Detectives suspect the killer took their phones in an attempt to cover their tracks.
The phones being gone suggested that the killer was either someone Christy or Victoria probably had been in communication with prior to the murder.
However, the missing phones aren't all that suggests the killer is someone the family knew.
The suspect knew exactly where to go. They went to the third floor with a purpose.
That's strange.
The perpetrator had to ascend 2 flights of stairs through areas that were populated with other members of the family who were sleeping at the time.
The murderer came in the middle of the night and killed them. They left the bodies there for the kids to find in the morning.
This was a very personal and up-close attack, and the person that did it was full of rage.
But could that rage also prove the killer's undoing?
It's been our experience that when there's someone that's stabbed, especially a multitude of times like this, blood is slippery, and the person that's doing the stabbing, quite often, their hand slips on the handle and can slip onto the blade and cause a cut to their hand.
If that's the case, DNA testing of the blood could identify the killer.
The search for the suspect's blood quickly zeroes in on a driver's license on the floor near Victoria's body.
You could see at least 2 pretty distinguishable blood drops on top.
They were drops coming straight down, as opposed to cast-off blood. So we determined that potentially the drops of blood on the driver's license were either dripping from the knife or possibly belonged to the suspect.
Need to bag this one up.
Detectives bag the license for analysis and then head downstairs to continue their search.
Once they were in the downstairs area of the home, they found where the killer may have gained entry.
The sliding glass door in the rear of the house normally has a stick to prevent it from being opened. And in this particular case, it had been removed.
Then, figuring the killer fled out the unsecured back door, the detectives go down the alley looking for evidence.
Went from house to house, checked garbage cans all the way down, and came across a house that was under construction.
They came across a construction dumpster and very quickly noticed the 2 cell phones. And as they looked further, they saw a bag that was filled with items.
They find a bloody t-shirt and a pair of tennis shoes.
And there was a knife with a purple handle.
It's bigger than a steak knife, almost like a fillet knife, and matches a set that was found back at the crime scene.
Detectives believe it's the murder weapon.
It had been bent, and the tip had been broken off, which really goes to the level of force and violence that was used in this attack.
But just as the detectives connect the knife found in the dumpster back to the crime scene, they're interrupted by a commotion outside the police tape.
By this time, Christie's family has started arriving at the scene.
We were all outside, and we had the major case squad there and all the police officers.
Christie's estranged husband, Patrick, is among the crowd.
What did you do?
And so is Christie's brother.
What did you do?
He saw Patrick just came and charged him, yelling and screaming.
Christie's brother punched Patrick and basically accused him of killing his sister.
Why did you kill her?
While detectives investigate the murder of 35-year-old Christy Brooks and her daughter Victoria, an altercation has broken out between Christy's brother and her estranged husband, Patrick.
My son tried to beat the crap out of him.
Why did you kill her?
He attacked Patrick and was yelling at him, accusing him of committing this crime.
Officers at the scene break up the fight and detain both men.
They were placed in patrol cars so we could figure out exactly what was going on.
Obviously, there's a lot of emotion. They're finding out things that nobody should ever have to go through.
To discover that something tragic like this happened to your family, the shock of it can put you in a state of mind where you're not thinking straight. So somehow that anger got to come out. And who is the next person to get it to? It will probably be Patrick.
I'm so glad the cops were there because I think he would have killed him.
The situation is diffused, but the brother's outburst does raise questions for the detectives.
After what happened outside with the brother attacking Patrick, you begin to wonder, do we have a serious domestic going on here?
Given the nature of the crime and that it was so personal, we had to consider all the people that Christy and Victoria knew and had a deep connection with.
However, there are some aspects of the murders that have detectives scratching their heads.
If this was a regular domestic situation, you go to the crime scene and the wife or the girlfriend's there and the boyfriend, husband's gone, but the daughter being attacked too, you don't normally see that.
Is there something missing? Something that they hadn't factored into the equation?
Hoping for answers, the detectives head down to the station to take formal statements.
They obviously were going to talk to Christy's family, and they were going to talk to Patrick regarding what they knew about the situation.
The detectives start with Christy's mother and her oldest surviving daughter.
After getting her initial statement at the scene, Lexi rode into the station with her grandmother.
Lexi said, I didn't hear Mom get up for work because they were off from school because it's Thanksgiving weekend.
I thought she overslept. So I went to wake her up.
She initially thought that her mother and her sister had been shot. That's what she said on the 911 call. But the injuries that Victoria had seemed to be more of stab wounds than gunshot wounds.
All she knew is that there was blood everywhere and that her mom and sister were dead. What else can you say at that point at 15?
As a child of 15, your brain is not fully developed yet. A lot of time for children is, what could I have done to prevent it? What could I have done to stop it, right? So how come I didn't get up? How come I didn't hear anything? So it's that internalizing of, maybe if I did this, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
She just kept saying, I couldn't wake her up. I'm like, no, baby, you couldn't. There's nothing you could do at that point. And she was just sure there should have been something she could have done.
As Lexi calms down, Detectives turn to the events leading up to the murders.
When was the last time you saw your daughter?
Well, yesterday, she had us all over for Thanksgiving lunch.
The whole family got together, even Patrick.
She invited him to come for Thanksgiving.
Was that unusual? Oh, not really.
She'd invite him for Sunday dinner, or if you want to stop by and see the kids, that's fine. She never tried to keep the kids from him.
Everybody knew that Pat's family was his world. Christy and his children was his world. So Pat tried, but if you know people that struggle with addiction, it's a hard road to recover from. And Christy seen him trying, and that's why she maintained a friendship and allowed him seeing the children.
So we had lunch, and then she had to go into work.
She was scheduled early afternoon, but she prepared the meal prior to going.
You okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. Bye.
Patrick stayed into the evening and left after he put some of the younger kids to bed.
But he was gone before your mom came home?
Yes.
Christy came home from her shift late in the evening after Patrick was already gone.
Does he have a key to the house?
No.
The family says Christy hadn't given Patrick a key to the new home.
She doesn't want him coming by unannounced.
Why is that?
Well, she had met somebody at work.
Detectives investigating the murders of Christy Brooks and her daughter Victoria have just learned that Christy had recently started seeing someone from work.
They were spending casual time together. I don't think she was ready for anything serious yet.
Oh, hey.
There you are.
All right.
Yeah.
His name is Joseph Willis.
Good.
No, it's against regulation to look that good in the uniform.
I never met Joseph, but it was like, you could see the glow in her. And from what she was telling me, he was a good guy, and she really liked him, and they was vibing.
But according to her mother, Christy hadn't introduced Joseph to her children yet.
I think Lexi knew. I think Victoria knew, because they were older, but a lot of the kids were still young, and she didn't want to confuse them or bring someone in that wasn't going to be there long term.
Especially since the kids were still adjusting to the fact that Patrick had moved out.
When Pat transitioned out of the household, it was hard for the kids. Of course, obviously, like, I have my dad my whole life, and then I wake up one day and boom, dad's not gonna live here anymore, mom and dad's not together. But she helped them transition through it the best that she could.
And Christy definitely hadn't told Patrick about Joseph.
She kept things very, very quiet because she just didn't want to make the situation uncomfortable. We're co-parenting.
He was really the only serious boyfriend that she ever had. So she kept it very separate.
She just never wanted to hurt him like that because she loved him. Like, that was her best friend.
However, according to Christy's daughter, Joseph was supposed to come by the house the night before.
Apparently, he texted Christy to let her know she had left her coat in the break room at work.
They texted back and forth for a little bit, and he was gonna bring it to her.
Do you know if he actually came by?
Not sure.
Lexi tells detectives that when she went to bed, her mom was still texting with Joseph.
Good night, Mama.
Good night, baby.
Lexi also says she got a couple of late-night texts from her father.
He asked if her mother had returned from work yet, and then text again about, is everything okay? I haven't heard anything from you guys. But she was asleep at the time, and she didn't receive them until the morning.
And it was only after reading those texts from her dad that Christy's daughter had gone up to her mother's room.
Mom, it's past 7 o'clock.
She wanted to make sure that her mom had not overslept.
After talking to Christy's mom and oldest daughter, the detectives move on to her brother.
He and Patrick had been brought down to the station after the altercation outside the crime scene.
Police separated them and put Patrick in one police car, Christy's brother in another, and then ultimately both of them ended up going down to a police station.
When they sit down with Christy's brother, it's obvious he's devastated by his sister's death.
They were very close growing up, and even as adults, they were close.
He was very willing to tell us everything.
So why'd you jump Patrick at the house?
When I saw him, I lost it.
He told us that Patrick had some issues with drug use and that he had gone to prison, but he was released a month or so before the Thanksgiving holiday.
I always told Chrissy was no good.
Why's that?
My sister works her butt off, and he's just a drain on her.
Apparently, one of the reasons why he was in prison, he had stolen from the family during his drug relapses that he had.
So you actually think he killed her?
Man, I don't know. I was just upset.
He kind of retracted, but he could not believe Patrick would do something like that.
After talking to Christy's brother, the detectives move on to interview Christy's estranged husband, Patrick.
Patrick had been sitting in the interview room for a while.
He waived his rights. He agreed to talk to us.
He's immediately forthcoming with his struggle about drugs and his legal problems.
I'm still up for roll. Yeah, a year left.
He tells detectives that Christy had started divorce proceedings after his most recent arrest.
She got fed up with it, huh? Yeah.
She finally reached that breaking point where she told him, I still love you, but I can't do this anymore.
She loved Pat a lot with her whole heart. She just knew that she couldn't be with Pat.
However, he says that when the moment came, Christy hesitated.
She didn't turn in the divorce papers.
He had some shred of hope that someday that they might wind up getting back together.
I did feel kind of hopeful.
Especially after Christy invited him to Thanksgiving dinner.
So you guys spent Thanksgiving together?
Well, she had to work.
She left it too and allowed him to stay there and be with his children.
You okay?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll see you guys later.
Patrick says he stayed until the youngest children went to bed, and then he went home.
About 2 o'clock, I realized I hadn't got a call, and I called her. She was like, by the time I got in, they were all asleep, but everything is okay. Said, all right, good night. See y'all in the morning. Okay.
He said he was nervous about Christy coming home late by herself.
But detectives wonder if Patrick had an ulterior motive for checking up on Christy.
When asked if he knew about the guy she had been seeing, Patrick said yes.
My daughter told me that they were talking and, things of that nature.
He says that soon after that, he actually reached out to Joseph.
Yeah, we spoke, and I explained to him, like, look, this is my girl.
Questioned by detectives investigating the murder of his estranged wife, Christy, Patrick Brooks has admitted to telling the new man in her life to back off.
Patrick said that since she hadn't turned in the divorce papers, he still had hopes that they would reconcile.
He said she waited so long to file the papers that now she has to start the process all over.
Plus, Patrick thinks his warning to Christy's new man, Joseph Willis, had worked.
He said, I'll back away. And to my understanding, that's what he did.
Which left detectives wondering, had Patrick found out that Joseph planned to drop by Christie's to return her jacket that she left that night?
When you left at 11:30, did you go straight home or did you stop at anybody's house? I went straight home.
He also says he never left after that.
When the detectives ask if they can pull his cell phone records to confirm it, Patrick doesn't hesitate.
You think it's going to tell us that you didn't move from your house at all between 11:30, we'll say 11:45 even, to give you 15 minutes to get home? It's going to put you at your house from 11:45 to 7:30 in the morning.
2:18.
And it's not going to move at all.
No.
After talking to Patrick, the detectives contact his cell phone provider and ask for his phone records.
Technology has certainly come a long way with cell phones and cameras and DNA. There's so many different technological advances that assist us.
Then, while waiting to hear back from Patrick's cell phone provider, the detectives bring Christy's new boyfriend, Joseph, in for questioning.
Joseph was very forthcoming.
He gave the investigators information about what had happened the night before.
I dropped her jacket off to her because she left it at work. And that was about 1:30. I dropped it off to her.
He said that he came to her house and she gave him some food from Thanksgiving.
But he says he didn't go inside.
She met him outside of the house, and they chatted in his car for 10 or so minutes.
You guys are making out in the car, maybe?
We had one kid.
That was it?
Yeah.
Then, according to Joseph, she'd said goodnight and gone back inside.
She said she was tired, she was going to sleep, because she had to be working.
Okay.
When asked about Patrick, Joseph doesn't have much to say.
She said that they wasn't getting along at first. I really tend to stay out of certain parts of things.
But he does know that Patrick had been upset at Thanksgiving.
He said that Christy had told him that Patrick had been crying, talking about missing the kids.
That's what she was telling me when she got in the car with me.
He says that after he dropped off Christy's jacket, he'd driven home.
What time is it?
I got home about 1:30.
He claimed he lived with his sister and she could verify when he was home.
However, detectives aren't just going to take his word for it.
Even after that preliminary interview with Joseph, we couldn't necessarily rule him out totally.
We're still going to go through and get the alibi and make sure that he's not lying to us.
But before they can check with Joseph's sister, detectives receive Patrick and Christy's phone records.
Patrick told us that he had spoken to Christy at 2:18 in the morning and that they had a conversation.
However, Patrick's account of that phone call quickly falls apart.
She received a missed call from him, but there was no actual conversation.
What's more, according to his phone records, Patrick shut his phone off soon after that.
And he didn't turn it back on until a little before 7 a.m.
There is absolutely no activity on his phone between the hours of 3 and 7 a.m.
But detectives believe Patrick had another reason for calling Christy that night.
That obviously was him trying to alibi himself.
Based on his lies, Patrick is now at the top of the suspect list.
They're especially convinced that they're on the right track when Joseph's sister fully backs up his claim of being home all night after returning from work.
Suspecting Patrick may not have stayed home all night as he claimed, detectives head back out to the crime scene and walk the route Patrick supposedly took home that night.
We go back to that street and we look for video on that street.
There wasn't a lot, but we did find 1 or 2 locations with security camera footage.
And when they search through the video they collected, it doesn't take long to spot Patrick.
He's a big guy, and we did see Patrick Brooks leaving around 11:30 p.m. on Thanksgiving night.
He's walking south from Christy's house towards the place where he's staying.
But will the rest of the video back up his story?
We kept watching, and after 4 o'clock in the morning, saw a figure coming northbound on Wellington Avenue.
In other words, he's heading back in the direction of Christy's house.
And they believed it was Patrick.
Detectives investigating the brutal murders of Christy Brooks and her daughter Victoria Brooks have located surveillance footage of who they believe to be her estranged husband, Patrick, returning to the scene of the crime.
In his police interview, Patrick said that he walked from Christy's house on Wellington Avenue at 11:30 at night and didn't leave until the next morning.
The video footage essentially tracked him coming back to Wellington Avenue around 4 o'clock in the morning.
And when he leaves Christy's house a half hour later, he's carrying a white plastic bag.
The bags, we believe, contain the knife, the phones, and some bloody clothing, sneakers, items like that.
In the footage, Patrick turned off Wellington near the dumpster where the detective recovered those items.
When a different camera captures him a few moments later on another street, he's no longer carrying the bag.
So he left with the bags, you dumped them in the dumpster, and then you continued on to your house.
Convinced they found Christy's killer, the detectives haul Patrick back in for more questioning.
We know you're not being truthful about being at your house the entire night.
What do you mean?
At this point, detectives let him know they've caught him red-handed.
In the neighborhood, everybody has cameras, bills that have cameras. We're looking at all that, okay?
But even when confronted about the video evidence, Patrick's denials continue.
Who else could it possibly be?
I don't know.
It would have been great if he had said, yeah, I did it, this is why I did it, for whatever reason, but what was going to happen?
He was so smooth about it the whole time. It was flabbergasting.
Only once does the facade slip.
Investigator Brennan took out a picture of Victoria, deceased, laying in her own blood, and he set it in front of Patrick. And Patrick asked him to take it away. I could hear his voice crack.
I couldn't do this to my child.
It's one of those things where it's hard enough to have them want to tell you about what brings them to that level of rage, but it's even greater difficulty to try and admit that you were involved in the slaying of your child.
I did not believe in my heart that this man was going to tell me or tell Investigator Farina that I killed my daughter, because you do that, you lose everybody.
The lack of a confession doesn't stop detectives from booking Patrick on 2 counts of second-degree murder.
And when they get the DNA results from the crime scene, they're sure of a conviction.
When the DNA came, that cemented everything.
They found his blood in the room on his daughter's driver's license.
It was a largely circumstantial case until we had that DNA hit.
When the case goes to trial on October 18th, 2017, the prosecution argues it was jealousy that sent Patrick back to Christy's house early on the morning of the murders.
He was losing his wife and possibly was afraid of losing his kids, and he found out there was another guy in the picture.
People snap, and I think that's what happened in this case.
When he returned to the house, he slipped in quietly through the sliding glass door.
Prosecutors allege that he removed the stick, locking the door before he left the first time.
Then he climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor and attacked his estranged wife.
It appeared she was killed in her sleep.
But there was something Patrick hadn't accounted for.
What are you doing?
Victoria's sleeping in her mom's room, and I don't think he anticipated that when he went in there to go after Chris.
Stop, Dad!
The police said, you tell she tried to step up and protect your mom.
No! Stop it!
She very clearly fought for her life. She fought like hell.
But there was no stopping Patrick.
My daughter was stabbed 39 times, and my granddaughter was stabbed 58 times.
When it's the defense's turn, Patrick's attorney tries to raise reasonable doubt.
They said that anybody could have come and gone from the home with one of the doors being unlocked, so why him?
The defense attorney tried to make a case that somehow his blood and evidence, all this evidence was somehow planted to make him look guilty.
But those arguments failed to convince the jury.
They convicted him of both homicides.
Patrick was sentenced to 2 consecutive 25 to life terms, so essentially 50 years to life.
I'm not a proponent of the death penalty because we don't have a perfect justice system. And I like the thought of him sitting there every day and knowing what he lost.
And there's no chance that Christy and Victoria's family will forget what they've lost.
I can't forgive what he did. He broke something, and there's things you can't fix. I lost my daughter, and she was my baby.
Imagine Thanksgiving for them for the rest of their lives.
I'll never forget that you took my best friend's life or my niece's life. I'll never forget that, but you're not gonna hold me hostage and on the inside to where I'm grieving every day because I can't let go of what you did.
Instead, those who love Christy cherish her memory and the love of those she held most dear.
Christy's children are amazing. They're selling everything they do because they want to make their mom proud.